And it's a matter of them proving us that they can do it up against a team like G2 Gozen.
Alrighty. Well, very important, obviously, for Falcons to start off this map very strong after difficulties on Breeze there. See if they're going to be able to recover in this grand final after a bit of a drubbing in the last map there, Pavlos.
Yes, sir. It's time to get rock and rolling. G2 Gozen on defense. Falcons on attack. Let's see if Falcons can bring it back. So far, so forth. Seems to be a very heavy lenience in the mid and left side of the map. Same could be said for G2 Gozen as well. Only one defender on that A site. Toki taking the fight straight out of the bat as Falcons to get the upper hand on the initial trade, something differed a lot on the previous map. Mimi, as paint shells thrown at her, but she takes the aggressive stance and ends up getting traded. Petra keeping things equal, really important as Falcons look to traverse into this B site, but already with two defenders here, and Vanya not really showing her ground. This is going to be difficult for Falcons to even try and get that spike down. Vanya moving in, and Vanya will rip Lodge's head off her body. And Madvi won't live long enough to tell the tale either, as G2 Gozen get first blood on the second map as well.
Yeah, pain train just continues. You were hoping that, you know, Falcons were able to pick up a strong pistol, particularly given the fact that they're actually able to take G2 down on this map in groups. But you know, G2 just continuing that strong momentum over from Breeze, and Falcons going to have to continue to try to embrace that grind mentality. It's just going to be a save for them here. A little bit of Sheriff investment. Slightly different game for Falcons to be approaching this game this time around, though. Previously in the group stage when they played EMEA, playing the Cypher for G2. And this time over on the Viper. So it does change up the comp a little bit. Obviously, you know, the Trips playing around those. The Cage plays. You can do a lot of Flood Cage plays at the moment. They're quite popular versus the Viper. Obviously, the classic info denial and exactly what you're seeing here. The mid traps around the orb.
Although they've got the better guns, they seem to be lacking in collecting the kill. Falcons with a real chance. Mimi again, the angels keep getting thrown at her, and she always tries to go aggressive off the back of it. Finally, Falcons start getting things in their favor as Vanya makes it a little bit more difficult. But with Lodge aggressing, it might be an opportunity to pick up a weapon here and play things with equal footing up against Petra.
Yeah. Keep an eye on when that Haunt comes back offline. Dark cover up in 5 seconds for Lodge to play around. There's the Haunt back up for Petra. Does have a Prowler and a Seize to be playing with, and she's hot on Lucia's heels here.
Luge really needs this round. Put Falcons on a really good spot mentally. In rounds, Petra, though, might have the right idea! And she will rip Lodge's head to shreds. With G2 Gozen nearly doing a whoopsie there, but they are able to close out round number 2 nevertheless.
Yeah, took a lot of damage doing it, though. You wouldn't want to be losing 4 guns to just the eco. Spike does go down as well. Whole bunch of points straight into the ult economy. So Falcons feeling very confident about their round 2 buy here. I really wouldn't even be surprised to see G2 just save around the single Bulldog and light armor. Just take the path of least resistance on this defense. We'll see what they'll decide to do with their economy here. But that's a massive inroads for Falcon into this game. And indeed, it is just the Sheriff pistol buy around the singular Bulldog save. So a chance for Falcons to get their momentum rolling early. They need a solid round here against the half fight. Early B main trap. Actually just denial of the B main territory from the Fade, from the Raze, as well as the Breach. You can see Falcons just completely disengaging and getting some nice spam kills through the smoke. A player advantage for them very early on here.
Yeah, there should be a clear round here for Falcons. Losing this round is not an option. Should be a gift given the work they've done in the previous round. But still, Petra is the only player with a substantial rifle of sorts. And that's where Falcons are entertaining their directory.
Just running down the clock. Petra's the only one really contesting. Obviously, they still have the Breach Viper in middle. Haunt gets taken out by 2 players. So that's at least a little bit of info that Falcons may be sticking around towards B here. Fault line and paint shell still up, and Petra going to get pushed off this line.
Being pushed off this line is understatement, really, with how much was thrown at her. With 40 seconds to spare, G2 have a good idea of where the initial push of Falcons was going. But hang on a second. There's a double back in the making, given how far onto that A site Sandra has got to as well.
30 seconds left.
There may be a real opportunity for a clean take.
Yeah, they've been able to call the audible here. Cypher was in sewers, so it's a little risky to run back to the site and actually re-clear all of this space, but Falcons feeling like they've done enough, denying that info line to Petra over on B main to rotate back towards the A side of the map, so they're going to run into this site
10
for free.
seconds left.
Get that plant down nice and open for A main. Still plenty of util to be able to make this retake very difficult, and they've got that A ramp control, so really strong looking post plant for Falcons here. G2 just looking for damage in this retake.
Yeah, clean pickup here for Falcons, who convinced us of shake off of the nerves. Petra's Prowler spotting presence, but nothing other than that. That's a strong fault line, catching off a couple of players. Mad V's got her teammates covered. Amy, good for at least one.
Standing.
But they're all in a corner. As the world close in on them, Falcons close out their round as well. So that's one in the bag, but a long way to go.
Yeah, 4 players surviving. One off the Seekers. Eva was absolutely massive in their last game as Split. She had a lot of big impact multi-frags, especially in post plants, couple of clutches on the attacking side for Falcons, so especially given that she's the main player with big game experience for Falcons here, I'll definitely be keeping my eye on her once again to kind of be leading from the front and giving them the really big impact rounds once again, the multi-frags where she could just give the team a lot of energy and a lot of confidence. G2 now back on the buy though, and once again denying control of B main. Dark cover onto the backside, TP across. Just keeping an eye on mid once again, contesting with this Viper Orb. It's something you have to respect. Sandra being harassed by the Prowler over on the A side of the map though.
And with his presence from D2 Gozen, there's still not much information gathered. So if a late hit comes in from Falcons, rotations will be a little bit too far. Petra repositioning, and she's going all the way back.
Yeah,
Up into the B site. This is a pretty bad scenario if Falcons are able to get a clean take over the safe site.
It's just Rescue dropped off on the info line. She'll look for a single pick, but no satchels to get out here. The cage actually would have given her the opportunity to cross, but she's going to stick around. Falcons clean side XE. Rescue just catching Eva, just getting the orb. That's the Seekers denied there early on.
Rescue playing the patience game, and it pays dividends as G2 now playing with the numbers advantage. But look at Falcons, they're pushing up all the way into screens, all the way behind enemy lines. But it's a matter of G2 Gozen is smart enough to look in this direction. They themselves have gone the long way around. Into A main they go. But it's Vanya on the lookout on the flank, and she hasn't expected Toki to be nestled into the right-hand side corner, allowing Falcons to be very dangerous from the skies. Having numbers advantage, well, maybe in health. It's Petra that closes it back in favor of G2 Gozen, and it's all down to Toki. She's got the spike planted for her, but 3 players looking in her direction, and this is nigh impossible unless she can whack all the molds down. She might have been able to get a couple of kills, but it's not good enough. Defusal successful, and G2 Gozen back in winning ways.
Toki just unfortunately taking far too long to be able to convert at least one of those kills. If she gets even one of those players on the first few bursts, that's the paint shells back up. You can rebound that off the wall and deny that attempt. Defusing the spike for a little longer. Maybe take a bit of a different angle. I think the big issue there though is Falcon's inability to really, having been tucked into that A site, play that post play and actually trade down effectively. G2 able to get in there and trade out. Put themselves into a 3-on-1 there in the aftermath. Straight up mid. Toki looking for these man advantages, but Amy's able to deny. Full stunned. The orb gives her enough cover to get that player advantage now for G2. It's a play that Falcons have been going for a couple of times. The fault line with the double satchel to catch this player over in male side. And this time it hasn't worked out for them. They're once again going to have to play a player down. The same as Breeze here, Pavlos.
It's crazy that Toki just can't get a break. Can't quite get herself together to close out some impactful kills. And it's costly. She might be getting into her own head. And that's where champions get defined, being able to snap out of it. So she's called to action, really. She's got a moment from the grave to try and recompose while the rest of her team tries to draw it all back. Difficult task given how Petra has been hitting shots today.
Oh, absolutely. Especially because I feel like she hasn't really been the standout for G2, but obviously a player with a lot of experience. Rescue, that's just filthy from Rope's side. Judge gets upgraded to a Vandal immediately, and now a 2-on-5 for Falcons to negotiate.
One enemy remaining.
It's Petra's repositioning and knowing exactly where Mad V is coming from. Yes, she'll be dropping her life, but it's her team lined up for success here. A 1 versus 4, where Mad V, the IGL, the captain, in the hot seat.
10 seconds left.
Stun and paint shells in a direction. Only taking damage by the snakebite, but there's paranoia to catch her in the dark. They can definitely know that she's in this elbow position. 2 line up for her, maybe the stars align, but not quite. It's Rescue to put that round to rest, and Mad V to bed. And G2 goes in. Disallow Falcons from any shenanigans.
It's big 2K though. I mean, you know, we talk about the damage to the economy. 3 guns taken away by Mad V with the nice little lineup there. It's not worth nothing. Pretty rough situation to be put in at the end of the day, and it just feels like the same story as Breeze, unfortunately. Falcons consistently having to play this attacking side from behind, the whole game from behind, really. But at least they've potentially opened up a window for reset in the future. With those 3 guns taken away, they can now reinvest, and Falcons Vega going to take a timeout. They're sitting on a lot of big impact ults. They put a fair bit of pressure, thanks to Mad V, on the economy in the previous round. They just need to be able to get 1 or 2 impact rounds in on this attacking side to start to get a bit of a roll on. But if they miss that window, I really do fear that it's going to start going the same way that Breeze did. So very important for Falcons Vega to get one of these early attacking rounds, especially with the impact ults they've got available to them right now, and get themselves rolling on this map before this grand final slips through their fingers.
It's starting to get real rough in the camp of Falcons, while G2 goes in, making a statement here. After their loss against Falcons in the group stage, they've just wanted to run down this playoffs flawlessly. They haven't dropped a single map, and I'm sure they'll be looking to do the exact same thing here in this best of 5 grand final and get their 6th local trophy.
Falcons, the only team that's been able to beat them this tournament. So something that they, I think, took issue with. Falcons this time. On the half buy, grouped up towards this A side early. You got both Petra and Mimi here ready with reactive utility. Got the protocols in place to deal with the set play. Prowler, unfortunately, not quite dodged, so that's a little bit of info.
Two sides of angles here held by G2. And so far, good to hold them back. Flash is good, and Ever shot even better.
Your trail.
Let me spray, find some chip damage. But G2 goes in, have rerouted their efforts to the defense of this site, and Mimi doesn't need no friends. It's Lush on the flank, but Amy's on the case. She's read it all right. And little by little, G2 are putting Falcons further and further into the dirt.
Again, just having to play a 2-on-4. Pretty far behind, sitting around, waiting for that gas to run out so they can actually start to contest this wall. And as I mentioned before, a lot of big kills from Mad V in the previous round. A couple more kills for Falcons here would make a difference, but they're continually getting smoke cycled straight through the smoke and a box, though, Eva to find the opening pick here and potentially give Falcons an in. Guiding light straight through Heaven. They're trying to reroute into Rope, straight into Amy. Eva goes 1 for 1 and will have to 1v2 an ace to win this round for Falcons in 15 seconds.
Whatever's got going for is that Mimi is very low, so this could be a very doable situation where you need to check out your left-hand side here, and she won't. Oh dear, that mistake is costly, and G2 will punish, keeping the lead even greater.
Still good damage though. 3 guns taken away. Armor gone there for one of the surviving players, so these rounds, G2 are still stringing them together, but they are expensive. Worth mentioning though, this next gun round, I mean, despite any reset potential, it's going to be spaghetti. Big impact ults online for both of these teams. So could see some big ult exchanges here between the breaches and the showstoppers for sure.
It's what we call an analyst's blessing and an observer's nightmare. And already we're seeing a showstopper being dropped off straight away, and it's a res Q. Check out the case. Point blank shot misses. Eva finds a shot instead. Vanya can't trade it. It's topsy-turvy for G2 Gozen. Falcons, this could be their round that they can get back into this game with.
Yeah, they're finally playing with player advantages. Everything working for them this round. Paint Shell's going to flush out Amy. Eva trades the second multi-frag in as many rounds. And as I mentioned, I mean, she's just stepping up for Falcons on this attacking side, just like one of their previous games I watched on Split. Falcons, if they complete this 4-on-2, they can break the money. Cage should just break that line from the breach over on male side. Falcons taking their time to make their way through ropes here. And they're going to be able to get into this A site for free.
I felt that there was a world where Mimi would have gotten a couple of kills through the smoke there for a sec.
One enemy remaining.
A very smart decision because Mimi did not anticipate it. And now Petra is all to herself.
Planted.
Now, you did mention the eco, didn't you, earlier? With all the rounds being kept close. So with a loss here, it could be a potential reset for G2 Gozen. So nicely done for Falcons and a way possibly to get them back in contention.
Yeah, I mean, talk about impact from Eva. The, you know, big game player here for Falcons. The only player with experience, international LAN experience, reigning champ here in EMEA. And seems to be the one stepping up for Falcons in these last couple of rounds. Once again, one off the Seekers after only popping them a few rounds ago. I believe it was in round 5 on the half bite. So she is fragging up a storm right now. And it's very impactful to her to be able to actually break the money of G2. We'll now have to go back to the drawing board. We'll see what they're going to be able to put together here, but with 2 players, like 2 to 3K in the bank accounts, I mean, that is classic showstopper. I've actually seen so many whiff showstoppers so far this tournament. So many round 2 eco wins as well. Those are the big trends that I'm seeing. I don't know what's going on.
I think all of these missed showstoppers is off the back of very instant close quarters combat, where you know you will find more difficulty in hitting that unless you want to kill yourself in your attempt to kill your opponent as well. So it's risk that they've been taken. So the early guiding light spotting out presence in that Viper's pit.
Well, G2 are feeling themselves this round, investing the pit in mid with the judge on Amy. They've got the Rolling Thunder as well. They're trying to push Falcons away from that part of the map. Showstopper invested. Toki bonks ahead on the pillar above. TP out up to rafters there for Vanya to get away. The Rolling Thunder going on through. And I'm surprised that one's actually hit for once.
And with that, Rescue is out of the fight. G2 Gozen, not the best weapons. But Falcons getting site control without losing a player is what they need. And they cross the finishing line. Causing Cloud, allowing further movement, whichever takes Cloud to move ever closer. Judge is the close proximity weapon, but Eva was first to see the barrel of the weapon. And still, Petra trying to keep things competitive. A Vandal collected for Mimi. But Lush being an alternative angle, I have a feeling G2 Gozen might want to go for a Rolling Thunder here. There's a real opportunity that they do end up doing something like that, but a stun in Mimi's direction will keep them back for a second longer. Flash doesn't affect Eva, and Mimi keeps on giving. But with 2 more players to spare, both looking in a direction, it's all ended just like that. Falcons get a second round running here in their attempt to close up this gap against G2.
Yeah, they're back into it. They're slowly grinding their way back into it. Mostly predicated off the back of some big rounds from Eva. 14-6 after getting absolutely slapped 2 to 13 in the previous map. That is someone that gets fired up when they lose a map. Falcons now really got to ride the momentum, ride that confidence. Their money looking pretty phenomenal right now to continue contesting this attacking side. And G2 only with the Rolling Thunder online. This could be another good round from them. Ace Viper set up once again to contest mid. The orb. Something that you have to respect. You don't know if it's a trap play behind that. If it's a 1-3-1 or whether it's just the Viper contesting and faking pressure from ropes. Once again, the Prowler. Seems like Sandra versus Petra is the narrative over on this A site. The regroup in towards mid from Falcons.
Trying to brute force that mid entry. Putting all their players in a death ball, but they have rerouted a couple of them at least back into showers, and the rest will follow.
Yeah, they've seen how confidently Petra is playing over on that A site, and they feel like they might have a timing to punish. Want to go and re-clear these close positions, but Petra just playing retake now over from screen side.
Cam and Cage spotted. Does Petra call for reinforcements? Caught out into the open, and that's Falcon's pick and the A-site hit.
G2 still with the Rolling Thunder, but do you invest that with a player disadvantage here? Seems like they're going to.
That's exactly what they're doing. Mimi shows out the Rolling Thunder, and Rescue looks to bounce back off the back of it. Pushing forwards, that's a double. One into the corner, they know exactly where Toki is, and she's a dead woman walking.
Remaining.
Rescue wants to keep it going to grab a quadra, but it's Vanya to pick it up into the end. And with Ever's demise, it's G2 goes in back on the steering wheel, back leading the game where they wish to take it.
That's just another perfect example of it. You saw it on Breeze. You saw it in one of the previous, post-plant rounds on A here in Split. I don't know what's going on with Falcons today, but you couldn't have gotten a better entry into this A site. The Fade making a pretty big mistake, scaling out screens instead of just playing retake with solo on that side of map. Unsupported, gets caught in transition. And then G2 complete a flawless retake from there. Just scaling into the site, not a single kill for Falcons. ResQ runs in full confidence off the Rolling Thunder and just gets the easiest 3-piece of her life.
Oh, it is a tough one. The technical pause allows the players to just dwell on it for just a little longer. But you're right, it feels like Falcons have fallen flat a little bit. G2 Gozen's retakes have been supreme. Obviously, that Rolling Thunder did help a lot, but, Falcons need to be thinking on their feet here and, seeing the Rolling Thunder and saying, all right, we've got to disrupt by them pushing even further. So, it seems like G2 Gozen is a step ahead of Falcons right now, as they are winning on every department, apart from the killing department that Ever seems to be doing quite a strong job on right now, 14-7, but it doesn't seem to be enough thus far. Definitely not doing what Vanya was doing on Breeze, her ex-BBL teammate. Definitely a head-to-head you need to be looking at. But even though her attempts of kicking and screaming throughout this map have been in vain, at least it's a hope. It's a sign of hope for Falcons if they want to get back in.
Yeah, I think a little bit of time to think in something like a tech pause, even though you're not allowed to talk. Definitely a lot of time to mull over the last few rounds and consider how you want to approach the rest of the half, especially as the IGL or the coach just have a bit of extra thinking time. I think Falcons, so far from what I've been seeing on their attacks, been quite stubborn in their default approach a lot of the time. They will mix in the set rounds, the exes, things like that, but they often do just running the same default and feeling things out. I really feel like on this attacking side, a lot of the time, they lack adaptability, and looking at the comp at G2, it feels like they start mid, they start in 1-3-1s quite often, and I really do feel like against this comp at G2, it's cypherless. They're seeing the Fade contesting A main a lot of the time. They're not really seeing much action on B main unless it's a B main take, in which case you know that you either have to wait and recontest after pressuring the other sides of the map and pulling the rotation away, or you need to have a protocol to retake it. I really do think that the name of the game here for Falcons is to start to force the extremities a bit, a few more side exits instead of continuing to force mid. But I think G2, they're already kind of playing around that. Once again, it's going to be the B main take from them here. Falcons going to respect that. Start cover one way. There's the orb for Petro, who's usually over on this A side. This time it's ResQ left on over there because they wanted to get Petra that Nightfall.
It's always that old balancing game as well that you've got to be playing. There's no way you just hit that.
Someone needs to check her PC, like 100%. This is just
this
way
is
too
not
insane.
normally
15. This is not normally. You're right, Pavlos. You know your memes well. Toki does not have a gun in this round. Did she forget to buy? I think she did, and now she's been able to pick one up thanks to Ever one-tapping someone in ropes through the smoke. That is very fortunate. Not everyone is ready at the end of the tech pause. Look at this. No armor, no util bought for Toki. She just legit forgot to buy in the tech pause. And yeah, I mean...
It happens. It happened to Bosa. It happened to Navera. It can happen to anyone. It's Toki's turn. And the Game Changers EMEA Grand Final. Petra, pick onto Toki. So that picked up weapon is for naught.
30 seconds left.
And the Nightfall already expended in mid means that she has to do it with her guns. Lovely pick from Matt V leading the charge. Presence on the back line here from Vanya could be menacing. Trailblazer clearing it out. Showing Vanya's presence. Paranoia. A little bit too far forward. And it's time for the rest of G2 Goes and start moving in as well. It's ResQ and Mimi on one end. Vanya on the other. Aftershock delaying one of the ends, but Madvi's clean with it. And ResQ, in her attempt to push, gets stunned up, shut down, and Falcons right back in winning ways.
is why it's so hard to retake one of these sites when you get a breach
On
in
my
there
way.
with a lot of util. Not too much needed to be used on the exit there. Obviously, you're cycling the fault line earlier on in the round.
Last player
Running through
standing.
aftershocks, running through a secondary fault line, and then another flashpoint. Trying to complete a retake is an absolute nightmare. You saw it with the popularity of the breach comp on Haven in the past. Falcons putting a lot of pressure on G2's economy now. Bucky has to come up for Vanya. That's not ideal. They're not going to have great money if they drop this round. And Falcons are actually starting to get themselves on a roll here. We might have a grand final on our hands.
There.
It's about time. Falcons are contesting. G2 again, grouping up 3 players, but they've got a double grouping over to the A side, and they've pushed quite far forward. Haven't quite spotted where the tripwire is, but if they break it, and even drop back or push, Falcons will start to feel a little bit uncomfortable because the question marks they have them towards that A site start to alarm. Amy walks forwards, one drops back. The buggy is used well enough to get a double kill. And she's still alive, hasn't taken any damage. The aftershock will force out the TP, but Rescue's there to help out. Oh dear, double TP needed. With a Vandal on the ground that Vanya will definitely have her eyes on, but is happy to close up the distance and have the Bucky instead.
Oh, this is where I get nervous for the indecisiveness of Falcons. They've only got mid control in a 3-on-4 here. Flank coming in from Mimi any second now. They're completely sandwiched on all angles.
30 seconds left.
A
One
bit
enemy
late to this.
remaining.
Never mind, she is
Spike
right on
down
time.
mid.
A double kill. And Ludge will fall shortly thereafter.
Falcons,
Last round before the
unfortunate.
switch.
The fault line into, I mean, the Bucky makes contact, and then the fault line straight on top of the player with the Bucky. Vanya legit just laughs at that. Just cackles at this fault line. Does absolutely nothing to her. Left click of the mouse button. Easy as you like.
And in the same way of saying, I don't need no man, she's like, I don't need no Vandal. Right? Saw the Vandal on the ground, was like, nah, I'm good with it, Bucky. And sticks with it for the end of the round.
She's sending a message. I mean, you know, Eva's doing her darndest. Ex-teammates, of course. And both reigning champs. Both playing extremely well in this grand final. Which just astonishes you that BBL went out in the earliest lower round possible in this playoff bracket.
Sandra spotted, but she gets a dink onto Petra. Will prohibit her a little bit from playing a little bit too aggressive.
I mean, Falcons are liking that. Obviously, no Sky in this G2 comp. I mean, Sage used to be a thing on Split. It definitely has fallen out of the meta for a good reason.
That from the shadows
Falcons-
just cleared out Garage. So they've got
they-
somewhat of a good understanding that it's not going to be an instant B hit, so they can spend a couple of extra players towards A. I mean, he's gotten a pick off the back of it.
Very difficult to break in here. See all the disruptive utility, big rotation, as he mentioned, straight over onto this site. And Falcons are just going to try to run through a brick wall here, Pavlos.
Eva looking to lead the charge here, unable to find pot shots against the low players of
30
G2.
seconds
It's Ludge finally to find openings up against the smokes as well. They've done good work to clear out this A side, but there's only one left, and I don't think they've read where Amy is. From the shadows, it's crucial. This shows exactly where Amy lies. And with a flash, Eva goes for the swing and wins off the site tick.
Spike
Vanya
down
is still
A.
a menace though. 6 bullets to her name. But she's got
10
3 more
seconds left.
players to deal with. One
Spike
down, 2 to
planted.
go. 4 bullets in the chamber. And has to rotate around. Neural Theft going to reveal her position, so it's got to be really clean with her attempt.
One enemy
This is
remaining.
up. Second tag. Has to run. She's good with it. Only a 1v1. And it's Ludge, the player that is low, covering one of the angles with the dark cover. Having a drop back, but Ludge isn't dropping back either. Wants to aggress in, but doesn't take the chance. Hiding within the smoke until it dissipates. And Vanya's found access towards the site. Oh dear, this is stressful. There's so much pressure, but Vanya Kez, that's nothing at all, will tempt her. It's going to be a kill, it's going to be a round win, it's going to be a defuse to end this half with an 8-4 score in favor of G2 Dozen.
It's just nothing but headshots from Vanya. This replay is just
down A.
insanity. The mechanical skill, you mentioned it. The lack of ammo. Just bursting, 2-bullet bursts, readjusting, perfect movement in between taking those duels. And that's why Vanya has been one of the just absolute revelation of a prospect here in Game Changers. Since BBL on the come up, all of you know, stage 2 and 3 last year. And Vanya was a standout statistically for the longest time. I think a little bit of a step down from her, you know, Heidi performances in the group stage of this tournament coming into G2, but into playoffs, you know, she's back in hard carry mode.
She really is. I mean, some say they put a leash on her, you know, into G2 goes and trying to play a little bit of a more structured approach, but Vanya seems to be fine with it, doesn't care. Leashes don't bother her. She's set free on those clutches to do as she wants. And it's Jed 2 now on the attack. Pistol round for them. Amy left for the flank. Lurges spots her, but still it's a B-site take, which Falcons need to decide now. Do they 10 players? They throw 3 players to cover off Amy here. So that's going to buy some time for G2 Goes to reposition. That's exactly what Rescue does. Trailblazer shows their presence. And they drop back. That's a good stun. 2 players concussed. Paranoia as well to follow suit, but they need the Pixie and they need them now. Rescue, good for 1, but it's Toki with a double to put Falcons on top here. Petra, side angle, 2 players low. And with Paint Shells going in their direction, they need to start closing out the kills now. Mimi gets 1 before she drops, but it's all down to Amy, and she cannot do the thing. Perfectly placed, smoked. All 3 players looking her direction. Falcons get the defuse and finally get a pistol round win.
Yeah, great retake protocol there from Falcons. Obviously running the 1-3-1 mid trap on the pistol. Able to kind of reposition through heaven. They spotted Amy on the lurk. They were worried about that, but after, you know, kind of settling things, making sure that they're not getting caught by the screen shove or the mid lurk, they're able to organize themselves really nicely for the retake. Use all of that utility that they would have used in the mid trap to be able to complete a really strong retake on that B site. And that's a pistol that is once again going to settle the nerves here for Falcons. Still not feeling super convinced by their performance in this grand final yet. Obviously a couple of standout players that seem to be playing lights out for Falcons. But it's going to take more than that against a G2 who's looking quite switched on today. Looking like there's no, you know, obviously we've had some massive rounds from Vanya and she had a really, really big game on Breeze last map. But I'm getting the sense today from G2 that everyone's stepping up, and it's something that I was kind of getting into a little bit before. Petra playing phenomenal on the Sova last game. I think, you know, even seeing her on the Reyna just playing kind of average in a lot of the comps for G2, she hasn't really been needed to step up, but so far in this grand final it feels like, you know, maybe especially with veteran players, I get this sense sometimes when they've already won a lot that they will need a big occasion to really, you know, inspire that massive performance out of them. And I think she's looking like she's back in that solid form, which means there's really no weak links for G2. And over on the side of Falcons, I mean, they need a much more across-the-board performance. They need everyone to step up across this best of 5. It can't just be Eva in hard carry mode. That's not going to be good enough to get it done.
I mean, let's be fair. Falcons, considering that we've seen a couple of clutches this game, they could have been a lot closer to G2's score right now, and would have made this defense side a lot more fathomable, a lot more doable, and maybe they could have been in the lead, given the economical struggles that G2 could have faced off of those lost potential clutches. But instead, it's a pistol round win to close up the gap for Falcons a little bit here. It's a tough one, given that high-flying performances were required from people like Ava, for example. But it seems that G2 goes and starts to show some cracks, right? And that's exactly where Falcons are trying to pressure, split their own map pick. This is the map to do it. And so far in this half, so good. First step, successful. It's a matter of how they're able to follow it up from here.
I think anti-eco is exactly what they need. G2 early on just going to be contesting A main. Trip's not broken by the paint shells. They're straight into the site over the top, but the rest of the players struggling to scale in through the trips.
Falcons have got plenty of players to the defense of the site. As Vanya falls from the skies, G2 goes and are able to find a couple of picks, but it is all shortly over. Falcons read that to perfection and close out the second round of this half.
Alright, well, it's going to be a bit of a nerve settler, I'm hoping, for Falcons. Onto the bonus now. Going to be keeping over 2 ghosts into this round. They got a Spectre, a Bulldog, so Pretty traditional looking bonus here. No one trying to go for a hero vandal or anything like that. See if Falcons have anything special. Gonna be leaning 3 towards A. And the Cypher left on B. Supportive trip for the Omen in heaven. Dark covers exchanged early on in middle here. Both teams just feeling each other out. Amy, after previously playing the Cypher against Falcons last time around, will have to think about cycling the wall and contesting A rather than the cage timings over here in A main. And she's playing very passive. Keep in mind that she's had to play this A lurk role against Falcons before, so the tendencies have already been built up in her mind previously.
Vanya has been so influential. Clutches and all here for GT. Great pickup, probably the best in game changes has ever seen. For now, it's Heaven take. It's Lush pressuring it, smoking herself off. G2 goes and don't want to go in for another bite. Instead, they spread out their wings all across the map, trying to see if they can find an opening, but they don't have much time. It's 40 seconds. This looks like an NA hit incoming. With 2 defenders, Falcons have got 2 players with rifles with them as well, so probably one of the best case scenarios for them to defend this. How clean can this be from G2 Gozen? They've got to make sure it is. Toki, not yet spotted, ever. Oh dear, the flash is strong. And G2 Gozen collapsing under pressure here. Vanya aggressing ever forwards. Toki not quite able to finish the deal up against Vanya. But she's low, so Sandra could potentially do damage with the Ghost. Especially if she can find herself a gun to work with, and that's exactly where she's going. A couple of vandals in front of her. Oh, but both G2 Gozen players looking right at her, and it's going to be G2 Gozen winning out the round in the end.
Just choosing to stay active in that 2-on-1, walking hand in hand, trying to rely on that trade potential with the player advantage. A little dangerous to go for the 2-player walk there if you had the late wrap over through ramp side, something like that. Could have been problematic, or a timing peak from Heaven. But I don't know, maybe they had info. Sandra's coming in from screen side. Works out beautifully for them, but they take a fair bit of damage in that anti-bonus, and now Falcons a chance to reinvest. Quite close to that showstopper on Toki as well, so a big multi-frag from the Razor, or even just a singular. Now that I look at it a bit more closely, could definitely change an important round like this and reset the money of G2. Once again, it's a 1-1-3 similar setup for Falcons, and G2 really feeling out this defense. Feeling like mid is free real estate. Prowler straight up into ropes. And once again, Rescue and Vanya have been able to press these prompts to push out of the lurk on Amy, who just peeks straight into the dog and dies for free. There's the showstopper for Toki and a player advantage for Falcons.
Brilliant response from Falcons, seeing that G2 Gozen players are isolated and they take full advantage of it, but it looks like they want to go in for another bite, but Lush this time is outnumbered, but eventually has friends nearby. Showstopper out, has to lose her life for it, so it's still a 3v3, and the B-site not quite taken over. Crucially enough, Vanya might be troubled from the heavens. She does cross under to try and isolate Sandra here, and that's exactly what happens. They still got a long way to go. 2 Falcons players split up. Evan from the sidelines, Mad V from above. One picked out. Flash coming through, but it's Vanya to get a quick pick onto Eva, so Mad V has to do it by herself. With one beneath of her, she was so close to finishing up that kill, but that's not going to be the case. G2 goes in on double digits, closing up to that second map success.
It's a bit of a nightmare for Falcons. Reactively, they push out A after losing mid control, and they are actually able to find Amy for free. Still can't close the 5-on-4 despite the fact that they get a big impact Razor online, and G2, I mean, it's the same story again. In the XVXs, the post plants, the retake scenarios, G2 has just been bigger, faster, stronger against Falcons today. That really has been the difference maker. It feels like Falcons can never be able to close out the mid to late round, and pound for pound fragging wise, outside of a couple players on Falcons, they're not able to shoot back consistently enough.
And this has got them into the thinking chamber. Let's see if there's any words of wisdom coming out from the coaching staff of Falcons. It's a tough one, right? And you can't afford being 2 maps down against G2 Gozen when Bind is up next as well.
Bind is going to be a mess, mate. Just
really
go look at
is.
the comps for both of these teams. It's going to be an absolute fiesta.
Exactly. 100%. And Falcons Vega had to go to overtime to take that against Giants X last time around. So I'm sure they're not looking forward to that one. But in order for them to have a better chance in this series, this map has to go their way. They've got to close up the gap. And it might not be this round. It might have to be the next one.
Cover going out.
But I'll try and do as much damage as possible for this round for now.
Yeah, money's reset. They've got the mid trap. Cypher Cam just spotting the toes. Ready with the reactive paranoia and the paint shells. Want to try to catch G2 making moves up middle. Maybe a bit of reactive breach util from Heaven's side to be helping that. But G2, they've got B main control. Amy's not seeing anything towards A main here early on. They're just feeling things out. They're not in a rush to be going anywhere too quickly. There's the stun over onto Heaven's side to apply a little bit of pressure. Spike retrieve for G2, and they see nothing towards B. They're just going to group up on the extremity. Big rotation coming through early on for Falcons here, though.
Rescue to enter, avoiding paranoia and the fault line. Getting a kill for that matter as well. She's on fire. Showstopper thrown out. And there's nothing Falcons can do unless Heather finds some more spectacular sheriff shots. They've actually made this one quite costly, but Vanya is not going to think for a second before she aggresses again. No teammates required in that endeavor. It's 11 for G2 and Falcons trailing far behind. This is the time that they can get back in. They've got guns now. This is their moment.
Yeah, and I think, you know, couple big impact ults for both teams. Just a singular kill or a singular orb off could make big difference makers. And Falcons obviously needing these rounds a hell of a lot more than G2 right now. Once again, just leaning on the same setup. They really haven't changed things at all. They've run 2 setups on defense side split, it feels like. Mid-trap and 1-1-3. That's been it. Straight up mid yet again here for G2, completely uncontested. Rescue has been in ropes and mail like 5 seconds into the round, both rounds.
Rescue against the smoke, actually pushed out of it. Quick enough to pick up Sandra. Lodge is there for the trade, but Petra follows suit as well. So B-site moving in. G2 goes into his favor. And again, Falcons find themselves on a retake point with less players alive. They've never been really comfortable for this one. And Mimi even has a Rolling Thunder as a guarantee. It's looking tougher and tougher. Amy, she's stunned, spotted by Toki. Evening the playing field. Rolling Thunder, Toki stunned up, but has got cover. It's enough to buy time for them. Vanya tries to go all the way around. But it's Evan and Mad V to bring things back to a double standpoint. As we're into a duel, but Mad V's position is completely telegraphed, and that's exactly where Petra tries to put a bullet between her opponent's eyes. 12-6, 1 map required to put G2 Gozen on a 2-map lead here in this grand final.
It's a calling masterclass right now from G2. Reading the setup perfectly of Falcons, and this has been the issue for Falcons I've highlighted time and time again. The stubbornness and inability to adapt is really rearing its ugly head right now. They're running the same setups over and over again, and G2 is out-calling them, out-reading them. Now moving towards the A side of the map, it is going to be the Cypher in position with the reactive breach util. They've moved towards the extremities this time for Falcons, but on a comparatively weaker buy. G2 just waiting out their timing for the exit right behind this Viper wall.
Face your fear!
Really nice placement of Rescue there. Right into the top of the site. And Mad V somehow was able to find a pick through the smoke. And now with a Rolling Thunder, could do quite a bit from that position. She just needs to stay alive until the rest of the team comes in as well. But it doesn't seem like they're budging yet. They're waiting for the spike to go down. Smart enough of a decision.
I love this from G2. They're just cutting sound, letting Falcons overplay their hand. There's a lot of pressure on Falcons being up against map 2 point. They're over-rotating, and G2's taking full advantage. This is the sign of an experienced team understanding how to navigate these mid-rounds, knowing that they could just apply pressure by cutting sound and pull rotations away from the site that's been so active since the start of the round. It's a free open plant for Vanya inside of the dark cover, and a very low percentage retake for Falcons.
And Falcons now need to spend some time to traverse back towards this A site. Trailblazer spotting out one of the players, but how many truly are in that position? Toki taking Mimi down. They know there's at least one more player there now. Rolling Thunder does take place on site, and it's Toki to flawlessly take on that A main side approach. Rescue though is the next one in contention, and Vanya comes out from the shadows to find a double herself, but Madvi has got her team covered. Do not worry, she cries, as Falcons remain alive in the second map.
One player surviving though. Going to be difficult for their economy to recover from that. I think G2 should be able to reinvest here. Interested to see what Amy's going to be able to put together. She was a little poorer than the rest of them. That's a nice little combo there from G2. Double saturate entry up onto the flower pot. Combo of the Paranoia and the Nightfall removes all of the hearing for the Cypher, as well as I'm imagining most of the vision as she tries to turn around, playing retake, elbow side over behind the cages, and the Raze takes full advantage of that.
Yeah. It's good to see Toki come alive again, though, right? Because I feel like the first half of this second map has been pretty rough for her. And the moment she feels alive, it seems like the whole Falcons roster looks so much better for it.
Straight up the guts, yet again here for G2. One off the showstopper for Rescue, who's already found her way into Mail, but after initially taking that control and having lost B main, which has now been further pushed by Falcons. They know nothing's going on towards this B side of the map, but they're a little out of position to defend this A split. It's going to have to be Sandra buying time on site, supported by the breach util of Mad V to defend this A hit.
Well, the camera so far has no information. As they do cross the toxic screen, they will be breaking it. How many players are truly here? Falcons have to ask. From the shadows, enabled traversal through vents, and they're loud about it. It's definitely telegraphed. Paintshell is thrown to their feet, so it does make them drop back. Showstopper thrown, that's one kill. Splash onto another player, but is that good enough for an opening? Look how quickly Falcons have adapted the defense of this B site. G2 goes and will be moving into a heavy inhabited site. Eva, good first shot. Sandra repositions and repeats. That's a kill for her. Eva still alive on the defense of this site. Vanya doubles up with the spike in hands, goes back to the A site with the from the shadows, and now has an opportunity to take on yet another clutch.
Trip's going to limit her movement, see if she's going to rip a shrouded step onto a different angle. Falcons, not really much useful util outside of the dark cover to be completing this retake. Going to go hand in hand through rope side here.
Leaning up close to the tripwire. Dropping back just in time to not be visible from Sandra's heaven position. And Falcons are going to play this together. Cover going out. Sisters in arms. As they start to move in. Vanya, she's done it before. Can she do it again? Because time is in her favor, but not the numbers this time. It's Falcons, again, making it look dicey, but they get it done nevertheless. An 8th round, 4 to go to find the equalizer against G2.
A little bit of a hard stopper against the half buy, but they're able to put the pieces back together. Good stuff for Falcons, being pretty on top of their rotations that round. Especially Toki denying that ability to pivot straight back into Mail and try to go back to B after the From the Shadows TP behind screen side from the side of Falcons. Showstopper and Pit up for G2. Big ults that can potentially open up and close down a post plant. See if they end up getting used here. Once again, mid is just so free. G2 being given it absolutely every round and taking full advantage. Rescue once again straight up into Mail, 130 into the round, and the Showstopper gets ripped immediately.
A complete change of pace, but she hasn't looked below. Showstopper does collect one, but is it good enough? Lunge's position. I'm not quite sure how telegraphed it is, which allows Toki to get a double as well. Falcons, they're getting a quick win out of this one. G2's fast pace, not paying dividends, walking right into the Lions then. And Amy now trying to play catch up. Mimi as well, but both revealed positions. Swing, and not a miss. Amy. Players looking at her. Oh, but she's so clean! And might even have a chance against Toki. No, not this time. Spike dropped again. And it's Mimi's turn. Amy did get a double, and if Mimi can match that, this could be the end of map number 2. Spike for retrieval for Mimi, and it's handed over with 40 seconds to spare. This map is her oyster.
A lot of breach util up for Mad V. Same can be said for Mimi.
Left.
Falcons just playing together, staying active, Trying to play the buddy system to clear things off. I don't know if they've heard the reroute through Vent side.
So.
It seems like they're on top of the rotation.
Yeah, I think they were barely in a position where they could hear it.
Spike planted.
So it's Mimi now, 1v2. Stun up. Stun. And retention. Aftershock to both sides, both breaches trying to do the same exact thing. But Mimi, can she do it by herself as Toki is sticking the defuse? It won't be happening this time around. Falcon knew exactly what to do in that position. And staying in the game, albeit all the odds.
Especially in a tense situation like that, it's great to see Toki full trust in Mad V to keep her covered as she sticks the defuse all the way through, recognizing the breach's backside. It's not planted for her. Timeout now for G2 Gozen. After 4 in a row, it's been 3 back from Falcon's Vega. And they really haven't changed up too much. They've been fighting towards the extremities pretty regularly, giving up mid control. G2's still being able to pretty consistently find control of mid, and Falcon's just relying on their protocols to be able to reactively deal with these site holes, with the mid splits, with the ropes control coming on through. I'm keen to see if they do actually change things up, if they'll go back to this mid trap yet again, or whether they're just going to continue sticking to the same game plan. Because G2, they've got a massive asset. They clearly recognize mid is free real estate. We just need to work out how we can convert that into a 13th round and move up this series 2-0.
I mean, all it takes for G2 goes in for Falcons to make one mistake, right? And surely Tempest must have said this. Ease off. Chill out a bit. Feels G2 goes and got a little bit too stressed to play a couple of rounds aggressively. And Falcons will punish them. I think G2 goes and need a little bit more time to figure out what the play is, what the setup is. But the fact that Falcons are starting to shoot back, I think that's where the problem lies.
Once again, space taken in mid by G2. Straight up into Mail is Rescue yet again. Reactive Paranoia. Ever going to peek off the back of that and find the player advantage. That's a big pick for Falcons.
That is mad. Because Rescue was not paranoid in that situation. The rest of her team was. But she had all her senses intact and still gets dismantled by Eva. Still, one left onto the safe site, and that's Sandra.
Cage triggered.
Aftershock, well placed. We'll have to fall. So never mind. It doesn't affect her at all. That's a pick onto Vanya. And finally Sandra drops, and the A site given over to G2, but they're climbing upwards here. It's a 1v, well, it's a 3v4.
Don't get in my way.
Get invested by Amy, but she's 5 HP. Very spammable here, Pavlos.
It is indeed. Petra, good shot. Knows exactly where Toki is, but with a Viper's spin, she herself can't see where your position is. Man V into the fight, which allows Mimi to be all by herself. Spike again being defused, and it's the exact same story when it was a 1v2 a couple rounds ago. Falcons all of a sudden find themselves in arm's reach of G2, matching double digits. And with a 5-round winning streak, I believe. Or 4.
It's just a beautiful opening pick from Eva, and once again, it's like I said, it's the reactive protocols to the mid control. That time, the dark cover Paranoia, just being able to segment off the raise. That was a beautiful supportive fault line from spawn side over there from Mad V to set up Sandra for success. You can see, I mean, we've seen in previous games she's played that same position, and G2 clearly very aware of that. The aftershock into that position to deal with that one-way spot. But still able to find success there thanks to that util offered to her by Mad V. G2 now back on another half buy. It's going to be a quick play towards the B site.
I don't know why, but this game feels like it's destined for overtime. Dark cover to the back of side. Rescue goes in, barely a weapon to work with, and everything thrown at their feet. G2 want to get rid of this round quickly as they walk into Falcons. Get ripped to shreds. One by one into the meat grinder. Turned into mincemeat. And 1 round only between the two teams. A 5-round streak and an Andalusia flawless for Falcons. And it's 1 round distinguishing G2 goes in from a potential map 2 or 1 round away from a potential overtime.
Yeah, Falcons have already been getting their grind on yesterday against Giant X, playing these OTs, really fighting for this game. So this is familiar territory to them. Another timeout here for G2 to try to close this out in regulation. Falcons already, their retakes have been looking phenomenal in the last 5 or 6 rounds. And this round, I mean, great ults to be able to complete a retake or even have, again, like I mentioned, one of these reactive protocols to shut down quick mid control. Showstopper and Seeker is going to be great tools for Falcons to be able to grind this into OT. Over on the side of G2, one off the Nightfall. They've got the Rolling Thunder as well to be able to kick off one of these XX or even potentially disrupt a retake attempt here from Falcons. That's something that's going to be playing in the mind of G2, I think, because I feel like they've had much less trouble taking the sites a lot of the time and a lot of trouble closing the post plants. So we'll see if they're going to hold that over into the post plant or potentially invest it, maybe try to get Petro her Nightfall, and that can be the ult they rely on in the post plant to try to close it. We'll see what happens for G2.
Yeah. I mean, G2 goes in this second half. They use their first timeout in this series, and just a couple rounds later, we're seeing yet another one. So you know there's a lot of pressure on them.
Yeah, I'm just so interested because it feels like they are continually going towards this mid control. They recognize it as a massive asset, but they're having trouble converting the mid to late round and the site takes, and that's something that it can be hard to make adjustments on the fly. It's more of a micro adjustment. You recognize that macro wise, you're getting a lot of control. You're getting something that's very valuable straight up into rope, straight up into mail. But the difficulty sometimes for a coach is being able to make these adjustments on the fly in terms of taking the site and just, you know, adjusting the little bits of util or the protocols. Once again, it's the 1-3-1 here for G2. A little bit of mid pressure. Haunted to ropes. Smoke to mail. Rescue once again taking space with both the Fade and the Omen close behind. Big setup here for Falcons to be able to try to deny any control or space in mail.
There's so much for Falcons on this left-hand side. And there's a lot of info gathering on that A site. Oh, Toki with a showstopper straight out of the bat. Misses the mark, though. An opportunity to get the numbers advantage early on in this round. Miss. Seeker's thrown out as well. It feels like we're seeing a couple of panic ults coming out from Falcons. They've got none of the other ultimates left in their chamber right now for the remainder of this round.
Yeah, G2 just baited that trap so perfectly. They've dealt with the cam over on Heaven's side. A lot of pressure now for Falcons who have no control of this A site. They're just playing full retake. They're worried about that Heaven control because the cam's already been dealt with. So G2 going to be given so much space, and the Rolling Thunder still not used yet. The potential to get that Nightfall. These ults could close the game in the post plant for G2. Rolling Thunder going to be invested on the side to try to catch. No, she's going to hold it. That's massive for Mimi.
I mean, normally I would be concerned with time trouble as there were 30 seconds and all still in sewers, but there was no one on this A site to stop them from moving in. And the Rolling Thunder kept.
There.
And this is a 5 versus 5 retake. This could get rough, this could get messy. Toki stand up early, has to move into elbow. Vanya, not yet challenged, but it's Mavi with first blood. Mimi and Vanya doing God's work to the back of this site. And all of a sudden, Toki is very low, concussed up as well. Mimi wants to do it all by himself. As a captain, leading from in front this round. And Ludge, all that remains. What a valiant effort it has been. What an amazing comeback. To put us in the hope that Falcons can do it. But all that was needed is one great round from G2 goes in to close out map number 2. And they've finally done it.
Oh, that's just so rough for Falcons. What a beautiful string of rounds to be able to attempt that comeback. Almost brought it all the way down to the wire, but the panic ults right at the end of that after the mail control. The